Hey, welcome back to Focus on Winning podcast. My name is Ashraf. Look, I know you have a lot of knowledge. You have pretty much consumed a lot of things. You have read books, joined courses, attended workshops. You have learned pretty much everything about what your business really needs, right? Some people say knowledge is power, and some also say knowledge is potential power. So whatever it is, that power is useless if you don't use it, right? So I believe execution is the real power. I mean, everyone can have the knowledge, but only a few can apply it. So maybe you have a product you want to launch. Maybe you have a strategy that you believe can accelerate your success, but you just haven't applied yet. Or maybe you have a YouTube channel or a podcast or a message that you want to share to the world. You believe that you have something that can help people improve their life. But there is one thing that stops you from doing it, that stops you from launching the thing, or that stops you from doing the strategy. Well, I know what it is. It's the fear, right? Fear of taking action. You are afraid of what people will say to you. You're afraid that your friends and family will abandon you. You're afraid of wasting money, energy, and time. You're afraid of being judged. You're afraid of how silly you will look or sound. You are afraid of failing. So that's a problem here. You are afraid of many things. I know how it feels. It's really uncomfortable to have this feeling, right? But what if you could take advantage of your fear? What if you could execute all of the strategies that you have learned without caring about what people will say? How does it feel to you to have this kind of attitude? So in this episode, I want to talk about how to turn your fear into action. I think this is important for every entrepreneur if they want to work on their mindset, because I believe mindset is the first step to success, right? You can't achieve something if you don't have the right mindset. So that's pretty much how the law of attraction works, right? So the guest that I'm bringing today is Tristan Winneker. He has been a certified life coach since 2017. He has helped many people find balance in their lives while creating their legacies with his Walnut Edge method. He has a 15-year experience of being a scientist in the biotechnology industry. Now, I know you might be thinking, how does a scientist turn into a life coach? Is that even possible? Well, let's find out after the intro.
So the real question is this: how would an entrepreneur like us, who literally start from nothing or has limited resources and yet still wants to build an empire, join Ashraf as he answers this big question so you can apply it too? Welcome to Focus on Winning.
Hey Tristan, welcome to the Focus on Winning podcast. So glad to have you here.
All right. Well, hey, Asyraf, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to share some value. I hope that for your audience, for your listeners.
So tell us, how did you get started as a life coach?
Yeah. So back in 2017, that was really a transitional year for me. I had just had my second child. I was working at a biotech company.
Congrats to you.
Well, thank you. And just about the middle of that year, I actually got laid off from the job that I had. So there I was, picture that, a dad with a 2-year-old and a newborn, right? And so, I was under this incredible pressure I felt to find my next job as quickly as I could. And, part of what had really been calling to me, not just then, but over the years was teaching. And it was maybe only a year before that I had found out about coaching. I'd never had a coach. I'd never, really looked into that before, but I found out about it. And so I decided that was a golden opportunity for me to go get certified as a coach, so that I could really help people. I wanted to step beyond what I knew in the biotech industry as a lab scientist and help people in a more direct way, right? So, despite not having a job and having to pay tuition for a certification, right, didn't seem like the most responsible thing, but it was calling to me so strongly that's, it was just something I had to do, right? And there were certainly some difficult times through that, with building a business, with, balancing my family. I was losing sleep. I felt so much pressure to make it work. And so that's really what I strive to bring to my clients is how do we create a vision for the life that we want to have and maintain a balance with all the things that are most important to us as we work toward building that vision.
And why did you change to a life coach? I mean, you were from a biotech technology, some sort of background like that, right?
Right. Yeah. Great question. Part of it was, so I had to go back even further, as far back as high school, I had a goal, a dream of getting a PhD and teaching at like a university level and doing like genetics research and that kind of thing. That was fascinating to me. The field of genetics is fascinating to me. When I completed my bachelor's degree, I went into industry because I wasn't sure exactly what I'd want a PhD in. So I worked for several years in the biotech industry, went back to graduate school, and about halfway through, I realized that life of being a professor really wasn't what I wanted. That wasn't the route of teaching that I thought it was going to be. I just realized that wasn't the path for me. So I ended up going back to industry, back to the biotech industry, and worked for another several years. And that was actually a really difficult transition too, because there I was, I had followed this dream of a PhD that I'd had for years and years and years, and it ended up not working out the way I thought it would. And it was like, well, now what do I do? What dream do I have now? And so part of me, it was almost like it wasn't like a full depression, but it was just sort of a, is this it? Is this the rest of my life? And it wasn't a bad life at all, but it wasn't that dream that I thought, that my life was going to end up at. And so then with coaching, as I started to put the pieces together of what coaching would look like for me, as far as teaching goes, as far as getting to build a business goes, as far as getting to be creative and help people and put together information and content in a way that spoke to me and then would also speak to the people, to my clients, it was such a natural transition. And so, for me, within the biotech industry, right? I mean, generally it's a good industry. There's a lot of great companies, the benefits are good. There's a lot of great things about it, but it wasn't what was calling to me. And so that's what I strive, to help people with is even if you're in a good spot, if you're not content there, if there's something more that's calling to you, you've got to honor that. Otherwise, you start to feel more and more stuck. And once you do honor it, like I said, it wasn't a very easy transition because it was something completely different, completely new, but I've never looked back, and it is so worth it to push through those tough times. I mean, it was difficult with my wife for a while. We are now much, much stronger relationship, much deeper than we ever would have been had we not moved through that.
That we all want more in our life, right? We all want to change people's life. We want to impact others' life, right? Me and you. So it's amazing that you have that kind of mindsets that you want more out of your life than just following a trend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all of us have that on some level. For me, it was definitely the biggest calling was in my career, but this can show up in any area of your life, your health. If you want better health, it can be so easy, and so many people, you end up stuck in that same pattern, right? Of the same diet, the same, whatever that level of exercise is or isn't, for you, within our relationships, do you want more friends, deeper relationships? these are all perfectly natural things, right? That come up, and yet oftentimes we put like a cap on it, right? We bottle it up, push it down, and say, no, that's things are okay, or maybe later, whatever it is. But the sooner you can do it, the sooner you're willing to just say, yes, I want that, and I'm going to go for it. I mean,
Yes.
it's so key. Life will just open up for you in so many ways.
It's like you're just waking up from from a dream to do something more. So,
Absolutely.
all right, Tristan, as I mentioned in the intro, we are going to talk about how to turn fear into action. So let's first talk about the fear when you were starting out. What was your fear? I mean, you left your job, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of your fear, that you feel like empty after that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
what is your other fear?
Yeah, so one of those fears was definitely being able to provide for my family, right?
Mm.
In a way that I had never done before. When you're used to just, you go to work, you do the things you need to do, and you get a paycheck for doing those things. That's very different than going out and needing to uh, find the work, find the jobs, and ask for money, and ask for it in a way that is valued, representative of the value that you're providing. That's a huge mindset shift, and it's a scary shift to make. It was for me anyway, to ask for money. And another big one was honestly what we're doing right now, right? This is public exposure for me, right? Um,
Yeah.
and as a biotech scientist working in a lab, and and I grew up in a small town. Like my entire life, I've generally been a very private person, and so the thought of having like holding live workshops, I love doing that, but it's not something that's being posted and broadcast out there. You know what I mean? So like going on and posting videos on YouTube, and doing things like interviews like with you here, these were terrifying things for me. I
Oh.
mean, it took years, literally years. It's been 3 years now since I was certified, and it took a couple of years for me to just continuously, ask myself, what do I want? What is going to move me in that direction? What's the next step I can take? And so I've taken, many, many, many little steps along the way, including, meditations and visualizing what I want, until I was ready to start being a more public figure, getting more comfortable with that.
Hmm.
And so for, to tie that to the listener, right? What is it that you want to create, and what will it take to get you there? And what about that, right? Where does the fear come in for you? And so recognize what the fear is, and then take a step, identify at least one step that you can take in that direction. And that is likely going to require, right? For me, it wasn't just saying, okay, I need to get myself out there, I'm going to jump straight into podcasting. No, it was a gradual process, right? Of doing little steps that gradually got me more and more comfortable and took me closer and closer. Right. So you may need to chunk it down and break it down into smaller and smaller pieces until you've identified an action that you can take that's not this big, scary, like all or nothing kind of thing. Right. It's about walking the path one step at a time.
And it's amazing that you mentioned about being in interview where you have to spend years of building up your confidence to be where you are right now, right? And also that's, I too feel fear when I'm about to interview people, especially people that speak other language than me, English, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my language is Malay, just to let you know. So it's kind of holds me back to do what I want to be.
Well, and I want to commend you because you're doing a fantastic job, and you're clearly, even if you're experiencing the fear, you're still moving forward. You're still doing it, right? You haven't decided that this is too uncomfortable and,
Hmm.
hung it up and quit. And that is so crucial, right? I mean, from where you started doing these interviews to where you are now, I mean, have you gotten more comfortable every single time you've done it?
Of course not.
So you still kind of have those same jitters, same as you did at the start?
Maybe a little bit, but I kind of improve more than before. So I don't really get stutter, even though I still am, but it's just way lesser than before. And also I have a lot of vocabulary. I have and my pronunciation is getting better. So a lot of things have improved actually. So yeah.
Yeah, no, you're doing a great job. And
Wow.
of course, obviously, the more that you do it, right, the more comfortable you get. And that's what's so key, right? It's like, I mean, it's like anything, like lifting weights, anything. The more times you do it, the easier it gets, the stronger you get, the more comfortable you get, right? So, for you, the podcasting, for your listeners, if it's health, it's about building the habit.
Yeah.
Right. And that can start with just the smallest of steps, but doing them repetitively and consistently to, build that mental memory of what that feels like. And next thing you know, it's part of your comfort zone. It's not this scary thing you've never done before. Now it's your routine, right?
Yeah, you're right. I also realized that podcasting has become my routine now because I have to interview people every month. And sometimes I have like 5 interviews for 1 month. So I kind of feel that it becomes my second nature, right? All right, there you go. The first part series of how to turn your fear into action. So I'm planning to cut this interview into 2-part series. So there will be 2 parts where the second part will be live next week on Wednesday. So if you want the second part, make sure to subscribe, give, rate, and review so that you will be notified about this episode when you open on Spotify, or maybe you are using iTunes. So anyway, on the second part, we will be talking about why does someone have fear when taking action, how to use fear into taking massive action, the 2 most important questions to ask to crush your fear, and so much more. So again, if you want to get notified about the upcoming episode, make sure to subscribe to this show. So when the episode is out, you will be the first one to get notified, right? So until then, stay winning.
Hey, thank you for listening. We hope you can implement everything from this episode. And would you like to know more about business strategies and life hacks that you can apply right now? If so, subscribe to this podcast so you can become the best you.